We now come to Genesis chapter 2. Here we see God takes a rest after 6 days of creation. The question, of course, is, does God really need to rest? He's omnipotent, almighty, all-powerful. Is he exhausted? Of course not. The reason he takes that rest is to set us a role model. That we who are made in his image, he knows us. He created us a certain way. He says we should labor hard for 6 days and take a day's break. Now, today we know whether you are a doctor, the human body needs a rest. Whether you're a management consultant, you know productivity will go down if you keep working non-stop. Whether you're an agriculturalist, you know the land also needs rest, right? So basically, God is telling us in this creation he has made, he gives us an owner's manual, right? You can run this machine, this human body, for 6 days, then after that you need to take a break. Otherwise, you will break down. So basically, God was giving us something of a very sound advice that actually no culture ever really has. Almost all cultures, there's no this orderly 6 days, a day's break. People just work the ground until, cannot produce anymore. Work the cow until the cow gets sick and dies. Work the human until the human gets exhausted. All right? So most cultures don't have this so many days, then 1 day break. But God instituted it. So we know this is the right thing to do. Now, I want you to notice the word holiday, which we use in English. Actually, the correct spelling should not be H-O-L-I, but H-O-L-Y. It's a holy day, that day of rest unto the Lord our God. In other words, we take a rest from our labors and be refreshed, not just from resting, but be refreshed, right, with spiritual refreshment. I think that's what should be done. In other words, you don't just do the same thing over and over again. You need to reboot, recharge, and the best way to reboot and recharge is spiritual refreshment. Okay, so I hope we understand that this is another beautiful part about God's orderliness. Now, God in Genesis 1, he introduces himself with a generic name, El. El is just the word God. Elohim, plural for El. Here in Genesis 2, he introduces a new name. Now, the name, we in English say Jehovah. That's probably not the right way to pronounce it. The correct Hebrew word that God introduced himself was YWHW. Now, Hebrew, there is no A-E-I-O-U. I don't know what that's called. I think those are called consonants or vowels. There's none of that. All right? So, in Hebrew, you have to fill up whatever the A or E or I or O-U in between, and so you have to guess. So actually nobody really knows the correct way to pronounce it. My guess, something like Yahweh. Okay, and that's commonly most people's guess. And of course when they anglicize it, became Jehovah, and it sounds totally not even his name. Anyway, that name is now no more the generic name. Generic name is God. But this is his personal name, Yahweh. Just like me. Generically, I am man. A dog, generically, is dog. But one day you call the dog Blackie, Brownie, right? So that's your personal name for the dog. So God is telling them, I'm God, but I am a personal God. This is my personal name. Now in Hebrew, what does Yahweh, Y-H-W-H, what does it mean? It means always. That's all it means. Always. Shall we say? Eternal. When God came and talked to Moses at the burning bush, Moses said, "What's your name? I need to know your name." And God said, "I am that I am." What's that? That's basically always. I'm always the same. No human, no one else can say I am that I am, because I was younger, now I'm 72, and one day I'll be 73. That's how I have to talk. But God says, I am, always. So Yahweh is God's personal name, and it telling them, I am always the same awesome God that made the heaven and the earth. I will always be this God. I will always be with you. I will always, all right? You don't have to worry, okay? So names generally are descriptive. For example, a dog is brown, we should call him Brownie, all right? Something is cute is called Cutie, all right? So in that same way, names in Hebrew are often descriptive. So I hope you will begin to see that God's name is always, and that will really help us to understand something more about God. The eternal God eternally is our God, eternally always with us. We are always sometimes like that, we keep changing, and everything in this world is changing. Change is part of life. It's not part of God. God is consistent. His character is consistent.